ACS boys are really lame right now,
Didn't say it, the ACS.
He say what?
ACS boys
He
say
say
it.
what?
Don't blame
I
us.
say
ah. And I was bullied a lot even in that clique. I remember you.
Oh, wow. You even called name.
Welcome back to Wise and Shine. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
Eric here, Mr. Positivity.
Hi, I'm Mark, and I'm the founder and CEO of Rice Media and Blockhead. Wow.
And I'm the fan of Rice Media and I'm budget based.
Wait, I am a fan too.
Thanks,
Just saying.
guys.
I did
Oh,
that first.
okay.
I feel very spicy at the moment.
Okay, yeah, you should feel. You should
Do not
feel
accept
by saying.
compliments. That's
Own the credit. Come on, it's your work. You should take pride. You must say thank you.
No, but you know, recently we worked with you on a few series, right?
Yeah.
And then some of the guys were, hey, Rice Media invest in you, huh? so some of my listeners are like, hey, you all merged already.
So what's the answer? Yes or no?
Not yet.
No money.
Not yet. So hint.
Boss. We work harder. We work harder.
First. See how.
See how.
At least they work with you. I'm too small. Rice Media don't even want to work with me.
No, you join us on the series, right? We'll keep growing it, right? So yeah. And today I think the question is very important, right? This is the most important question we have tackled, right? Is does ACS
That's
affect
what we
your
always
future?
say in every episode. Today one very important.
It's all important.
It's all important. Yeah. So the question is, right, does ACS affect your outcome, right? So in Singapore.
Well, that is like that is a nice hook, I have to say, man.
Yeah.
Like,
That's the hook. What's the real question?
Okay. So I'm getting very bad at this, in the sense that I'm getting very like too media sensitive.
You must
right?
make it less obvious what you're hinting at.
Yes. So actually the real question is, does your secondary school affect your outcome in Singapore, right? Does it impact you in ways and all that? But of course today the premise, because recently ACS shift, right? So we're gonna use that as a hook, right? So and we got a 12-year ACS boy.
Woo!
Yeah, so
this is what they look like.
Yeah.
If you guys want, I can take my shirt off. Like,
No, it's okay.
Control.
PG.
It's okay. But yeah. So yeah, what is your take? Does your secondary school affect your outcome in Singapore?
First of all, I think it would be very cool to know each other's secondary schools, right?
You should say our stand first, then we say, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Otherwise, right, you will judge our stand by the secondary school we came from.
Okay,
fine.
Fair. I agree with you. Go.
I'm a no. Yeah.
That's a good point. Like, put up perspective first.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
I don't have confirmation
can I give one of
bias,
those like
right?
really weasel kind of answers where I think that no in certain areas.
So boring.
Okay, I mean like my perspective is not in the way that people think it does. Right? So like I think that what we need to kind of move the conversation to at the moment is when we talk about secondary schools impacting your future, right? We usually think about it in terms of a financial future, how to kind of, live a certain lifestyle in Singapore. And like, I think it's a multifaceted thing. Definitely logically, you cannot say that where you went to school doesn't affect your life at all. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because, you have friends from secondary school, your formative years are there. But I don't think it affects your life in the way that a lot of people make it out to be.
Really?
don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But everybody know you from ACS already, I'm just saying, right? 12
Yeah, so
I
this
can
is
tell
the
you that
privilege stalking.
My ACS education, I think that like it has not given me kinds of advantages that people think it does. I mean, I'm not saying that like it hasn't, like there's certain things that I feel grateful for, but at the same time, ACS boys are really lame right now, If you guys haven't seen.
Oh, wait, in what sense?
We didn't say it, the ACS,
He say what?
ACS boys say
say
it.
what?
Don't
No,
blame
I
us.
say what?
ah.
Like, okay, so like it's gotten to a point where I'm just so like I'm honestly a bit embarrassed to be associated with certain things. Like every time there's a Founders Day, like there's no school in Singapore that, sometimes you go into the CBD, you see some joker with an ACS tie.
And that's the whole premise of the show, because the very fact
and then
is...
got like, got like now got ACS branded shoe as well.
Huh?
Like you guys are just lame. Like, like what was, essentially cool, right? You turn it to something that is just like that obnoxious kid that no one likes now, I think that's where like the current branding of a school is headed towards if we continue in this trajectory.
It's okay, you're going to
Because
Tengah
there are a lot of other brand name elite schools, quote unquote, in Singapore, right? None of them do this shit, dude. Like you don't see freaking like, okay, I mean, to talk about say like, like RI or RGS girls kind of like, like wearing their freaking school sweaters out, like in the CBD when like, it's their founders. They don't do that kind of shit, But having said that, I also think that talking about what secondary school you came from is a very Singaporean thing.
It is. That's why
Okay,
my
so
producer
discuss
wanted
that
to bring it out
first.
because of that.
Yeah.
What
Because
if the ACS principal listens to this
then
episode?
come on the show,
Forward it to him.
yeah, but like, I mean, like, there's another point we made here about why I think that this general, how lame it is right now, right? It's actually really important.
Yeah.
And I think that it's pretty lame to be an ACS boy at this point in time.
Okay, no,
Yeah, but
no,
we can talk about that.
no fear.
Yeah.
Okay, flame him in the comment section below. Okay, no
Encouraging
fear.
it.
Go for it. Okay, yes, Eric.
Well, well, looking back to my last 4 years, the secondary school days was the worst 4 years of my life. But I was thinking, I think the reason why it's the worst 4 years of my life is because it's our formative years. When you are 13 years old, all of a sudden you become very self-conscious. You're conscious about how you look. You're conscious about the opposite sex.
You start having hormonal,
And then that's when you feel like you cannot fit in anymore.
Yeah.
So I remember the last 4 years of my life, year one was terrible because I did not know how to be a good friend. I did not know how to fit into a group. So I ended up becoming the outcast. But also because of that, during junior college, I had a great time because I learned everything I learned in that 4 years of what not to do. And I became like one of the most popular person in my junior college. But I was one of the most like unpopular, invisible person, and I got lots of amazing fun stories. So if you are also one of those people that have a nightmare in secondary school, at least you got one person that can relate to you.
If you're Eric's secondary school
No,
friend,
You can tag him.
actually, oh god, there's a lot more that we can talk about. Yeah. Recently there was a secondary school
Eric,
gathering.
you say JC or poly? Uni, is it uni most popular?
No,
is it?
junior
JC.
college.
Junior college. If you're his JC friend, please tell us in the comments below whether it's real or he bragging only.
Yeah, no
Maybe
problem.
one-sided.
No, but I
No, actually, you know what? That one can prove one because I became the guest speaker for my junior college.
Can prove some more.
Yeah,
Okay,
anniversary.
Sorry,
That's awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But let's talk about secondary school. So fun. Okay, but what about you, Reggie? Do you
I
think
think it affects.
it is?
I think it affects. Oh, up, down, left, right. It definitely affects.
Affects what?
Affects your outcome in your life because of your formative years. Of course, there's one element, right? Because whatever the teacher tells you and how well staffed, how well the culture of the school matters a lot, right? It affects. So that's why there's a certain quan, right? Like when you look at certain people, it's like, wow, this guy looks like ACS boy, right? There's a certain.
That was meant to be ironic, by the way. Like there are not many ACS boys with 12 fingers.
Okay.
Next time it's not ACS boy, right? Next time it's ACS people.
Yeah,
They
ACS
change,
girls,
then they will
yes,
be
yes.
the girls can join already, right?
Yeah. No, that one. Anyway, it's MGS girls merging lah. So, whoa. okay, we don't go there. But I think so. Other than that whole school culture, formative years things, your connections matter, right? Depending on which school you go to, it affects the path forward, right? It does, right? On all levels because if you go to a good school, then all your friends will end up as scholars. They go to like big MNCs. They work in all the leading tech companies. So they're all your friends, right? So many of my friends are in all these places, and they casually open
And the
doors. Hey, can I
principals-
introduce you to somebody?
The principals and the teachers matters in that school too.
Yeah. So that is so important.
So true.
But I think what is even more important is really that whole like door opening kind of. It's very casual. It's not that they're very structured in a way of like, oh yeah, you from whatever school. Okay, come.
It's all very subtle.
It's very subtle.
You
and
don't notice it.
Yes.
And it takes you to be a bit more aware that it's even happening, that you even have this privilege.
Yes. So it's a very subtle, in my view. I mean, I have friends that introduce me to people, a very random one, and I think it makes a world of difference.
Oh, okay. So now let's go back to Eric's part.
Yeah.
So which secondary school are we
Yeah,
all
yeah,
from?
yeah, yeah.
You have friends who introduce privilege, is it?
I'm from a
privilege.
neighborhood secondary
Yeah, me
school.
too. High five.
High five.
Can name drop now? You should
Can,
name
of
drop.
course. I'm from Anderson.
Anderson is
Anderson
not a
Secondary
neighborhood
School.
Anderson?
Yeah, it is a neighborhood school, but it's autonomous.
Anderson
so they
is quite
run
a
on their
good
own.
school.
I know, yeah, lor,
Okay, I
good
have
school.
to justify. It was a great school for the first year only.
Oh
The
my
first
God.
year I was.
Was.
They are
Because the principal was Mr. Quack. And Mr. Quack is one of the most amazing leader principals who later on went to Nanyang Junior College and made Nanyang Junior College the Nanyang Junior College today. Yes, and I was from Nanyang Junior College. So I remember that when he first came into Anderson, he created this exchange program and he allowed us Sec 1 students to be able to go on exchange so early.
Wow.
And we went on a history trip to Indonesia, my very first time going overseas, experiencing culture, experiencing flying on my own. That was one of the best. So that's one of the best experience. But after that, when he left, I don't think it was that.
And
good.
considering the era, because we all know your age, but
Yeah.
we'll help you not review it.
Yes.
I mean, that was game changing, because that time
There
really
was no
is not-
exchange.
nobody does exchange for secondary school
Yes.
at all.
Yes,
Wow,
I
It
agree.
was the first, is it?
It was the first. We were the first batch. So that's why I say that the teachers and the principals of a school really does make a difference. So it really doesn't matter, is it, I think it's an ACS school or whatever, but I would follow where the principal or the teachers go. Because the principal and the teachers kind of influence the culture of the school.
Definitely makes a
Okay,
difference.
okay.
Yeah. But do y'all realize the kind of reaction that we had when he said he's Anderson?
Oh yeah, why? What
And then
was,
it's like,
what was
okay,
your
it's a
answer?
good school, blah, blah, blah. So that means
You
not,
say,
not,
not
because
good
he
school.
said neighborhood,
No.
he prefaced it with neighborhood.
it
and
is a
answered
neighborhood
the
school.
Anderson.
Okay, ma.
that means not all schools are
Yeah.
good schools.
Okay,
And then the minister
I can say,
after you.
the good experience came from my principal and teachers. The bad experiences came from my classmates. But that's also not their fault because back then I had no social skills.
Right. Reggie, what secondary school are you from?
Yeah, curious.
Okay. I'm a Mari's boy, Mari's Stella.
No
Oh,
wonder.
Ching Chong one, right?
It's not as Ching Chong anymore.
No more?
Yeah, but
Oh.
I know in the past it's very Ching Chong.
Yes, they
Yeah.
come to Nanyang.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
Ching Chong. I mean, I still got a lot of friends that go to Nanyang. lah. So a lot of them are all very well to do. Like when I first went to their houses, because I come from like very far out of like the Serangoon area.
Yeah, you stay in Tampines, right?
I say Tampines. Right?
Yeah,
I grew up in
why?
Tampines. I had to travel
But did you-
1.5 hours to get there.
No,
No,
like, so-
Maristella.
Yeah, so that was gonna be my question. Like,
a
how
few, of
was
my,
the
a few of my uncles are from
right.
there.
yeah.
Okay.
So they will promote the school to you. So okay, PSLE like that, right? Then
So
you
on
go
that-
here,
on that-
Like our boy
Right.
go army show.
But then on that train of thought, right? So because I have a theory about this, right? So how did you end up going to Anderson?
Oh, this is so embarrassing.
You had the grades for it and then decided to
Because I was one of the top class in my primary school and our teacher endorsed it. And also all my friends, my smart friends, all go to Anderson.
right. But then
So
did
peer
you
pressure.
stay the Ang Mo Kio area?
No, I stay in Yishun.
You shouldn't.
It's
Oh,
not that
okay,
far.
wow.
Not that
Yishun
far
is
lah,
okay.
but it's like
No,
one
the
of
problem is
good
Yishun.
schools.
Yishun got no.
Are we really going there?
okay, no.
But you know, right, my tuition teacher played a very big part as well because we did well. I did relatively well to go to the good schools, like even Victoria. But she said to me this, she said, Eric, it is better for you to be a big fish in a smaller school than to be a small fish in a bigger school.
Whoa.
So she felt that if I go to Victoria, then I'm not going to be in the top class. I'll probably be in the middle class and I'll have to fight with everybody for the best. But if I go to Anderson, which is back then still normal school, I would have been in the top class. And if I'm top class, I get all the benefits and all the good stuff. So, wow, I thought that was one of the best advice that you don't have. If you want big opportunities, sometimes you put your kid into a normal school to get more. So I think that
I applied
advice
that
was
same
very good.
advice to choosing
So-
my JC, but then it's not a teacher who gave it to me, it was a storybook. I don't have such good teacher.
Storybook?
It was a book lah. I picked it up from a book lah. Okay, but I'm not gonna say which secondary school I'm from.
Why?
Because
Hey,
they're
you
off
made
camera.
us tell your secret.
I'm
Our
not off camera
secret.
because
Okay,
it
why?
does review where I stay, and I want to keep that a bit
Oh,
more
okay,
confidential.
okay.
So I'll tell you
Okay,
guys when
okay.
this is off the record.
Okay, sure.
But let me just say, all three of you privileged. I really neighborhood. Okay, neighborhood.
No, as in like, so like my theory is that, sometimes you have people who kind of go to, say, certain schools with like, like a long history of culture, right?
Yes.
Chances are there are reasons why they ended up there is because their mom, their dad, their
Yes,
uncles went there.
yes,
So there is
yeah.
that continuity.
network.
Yes.
Continuity there. So this is not just an ACS thing, right? Like you can
It's
look at
true,
it through
it's
like,
true.
like there are a lot of like, you look at the convent girls schools, there are like, like 6 or 7 of
Totally,
those.
yes.
Yep.
Right? And a lot of them, their moms, have just been in that education system for a while already, right? Whereas, so one of the distinctions there between that and quote unquote what you'd normally call like people like the term neighborhood school, right?
Yeah.
Is that oftentimes the premise there is really based on just grades. Yeah. So like there's some schools out there. For example, does anyone know anyone who's gone to kind of like Henry Park or like kind of Chongqing.
I know of people.
Right. So for example, right, like this is something that's worth investigating. Okay, every year, right, PSLE, right, Henry Park usually has someone in the top 5. And it's just one of those things, right? Because it doesn't come from, say, like, like a school with multiple levels of, say, like, like institutions, like from like primary to tertiary, right?
Like
it's
ACS,
just a primary. It's just
Or Raffles.
like ACS or Raffles or MGS or one of these things. But at the same time, this school produces top students every year, right? So like, I wouldn't necessarily classify it as I would call it kind of like a neighborhood school in the sense that it doesn't have like that same kind of brand name institution behind it. But it is clearly an elite school.
Maybe the top 5 always go to a same tuition center.
Maybe-
that
In
they
the
want.
same neighborhood.
Because like their theory here is that it's in the Holland area. People there have a lot of money, and then like they can afford like the best tuition for their kids. Blah 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 blah. Right, but then
Or that primary school is really
Correct.
still mass market, right? So maybe the school was lucky enough to have one
Cannot
smart
be lah.
student.
Not every year,
No,
right?
no,
Why
I
not?
don't think
No.
primary school is as egalitarian as what
Oh.
people want to think. It's not. Okay, so the idea here is, wow, we go into that area. Okay. We
Yeah.
depending on where you place the school, you attract the people around, right? So
Okay,
that's
so
why
it might
that's
be
why
a
ACS shift to
causation.
Tengah is such a big problem to the ACS
Yeah.
people, right? It's like, oh my god, you're shifting out of our area. That is the idea.
So now Tengah value go up lah.
yeah. Now HDB will have no problem
Yeah.
selling Tengah.
Yeah.
Of course, that's why it's a very good move.
So that okay. Before we get to that point, right? The point I was trying to make there is that I think when we think about kind of like brand name or elite schools, right?
Yeah.
We can actually make a distinction here. Like there are schools that are actually people think they're kind of like bred with the really strong history and culture.
Yes.
Therefore, they're elite. But when it comes to certain things like academics, right? Actually, the neighborhood schools are better. Like there are like I don't want to name schools, okay, but then like
They
like
already named like
there
free
is-
flow already today.
the definition of like a brand name or elite school here, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't just have to be on academics. Because there are
Yep,
examples
yep.
out there that like
Non-academic,
there are government schools
kind
that
of
are really
benefits.
they are really focused on academics, right? And then there are other schools that are kind of a long history with a long history.
Long history, good network.
But then
right?
the people in there like ACS can't really study one. Like honestly, there are a lot of dumb ACS boys out there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but my impression also is not of ACS being very smart. I would attribute that to Raffles.
Exactly,
Yeah, but I
right?
would think of ACS people as very, very cocky, very rich. Yeah, a lot of connections.
Yeah, so-
Good social skills lah, maybe.
Kantang.
Yeah. Well
Yeah.
connected.
Cannot talk Chinese.
So anyway, yeah. So then, okay, Tengah, sorry, that was the I'm a
But
bit of a segue.
isn't
Yeah.
that actually okay? Like it doesn't. I mean, I feel that just now when he mentioned that ACS has this tie, and you think it's lame, right? Personally, even though I'm not from ACS, I thought that was cool.
You know why?
Why?
Because you don't have it. He has it so he can say it's lame. You don't have so you want it. Then you
Yeah,
won't
but from
say-
an
No, it's-
outside point of view, I
it's
thought
cool.
it's very cool. Like
It's-
my school, okay, which I also think that ACS did one thing great, right? It's because they're very strong alumni engagement. I don't remember my own secondary school like really
Yeah.
actively reaching out because
Yeah, mine also.
actually parents has a very big influence on where they send their kids to. So if a secondary school can hang out, like engage the parents and build good relationship, obviously by association, parents want to send a kid. It's a positive cycle.
Yeah.
But the thing is that because most schools are trained to be academic, they're trained to produce good students, but they forgot about branding and marketing,
yeah.
which ultimately is still a very important life
Which
skill.
is my secondary school law. That's why I only go there because my grades cannot get me anywhere else. And you know where I want to go? Anderson.
Ooh. Like,
Personal, okay? They not good school, then go into Anderson.
I still remember our logo got bamboo and the song is Ever Onward Andersonian.
Not nice.
Always ready to go. I can't remember. I don't know why I remember the song.
I really feel like cutting that
I
part.
don't even remember my secondary school
Do you still
song.
remember your secondary school song?
Of course, but I'm not gonna sing it though.
Yeah,
I
please
guess
don't.
it takes
Please
like-
don't.
No,
please
so
don't.
the thing about the question about how like
Yes.
it's cool to have kind of like
Yeah,
a
the-
strong alumni network,
Yes.
and then people are proud of their school uniform. Whenever I see someone who wears, say like this is like I'm gonna get flamed. I don't give a shit. But anyway, whenever I see someone who wears their school stuff out, when you're freaking 40 years old and there's no reason to freaking do it, right? I think that your life peaked when you were 16 years old.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
You miss those days.
What I'm trying to say here is that after 30 plus years of existence on Earth, right, your secondary school identity, right, it should just be a small part, right, of the broader picture. And that's absolutely a choice. There's some people who just can't let go. until like, like they're 30 plus, 40, 50, right? They're still an ACS boy.
And what? They do that every day or what? Or they do it on Founders Day only?
No, they don't do it on, they don't do it every day lah. But I mean, like, the meme, right? Like, how do you know when someone's from ACS? They'll tell you.
They will tell. So they always
like,
talk about it.
They will bring it up. And like, so the point here is that like, it just creates this, the branding here, right, is that like, like you still really identify as someone from that school, which is just stupid because, like that was 20 plus years ago. Right, and if you're 40, right, and you still identify with that as the core part of your, after being a dad, like a business person, like doing a bunch of other shit, right? There's something going wrong there, man. Something's up, man. Like you're compensating.
Yeah, but a different view. I mean, as someone who doesn't have the privilege of saying that, I can see why some people will be really proud of their heritage. Like I perceive it as they were just very proud to be associated with that brand.
Fair enough.
Yeah, like
if I was from Raffles, I would be flaunting it too.
Yeah, because it's part of your resume,
not
you
smart
see.
enough. I know. I don't have the resume.
Yeah.
No, I hate those resume shit. X something.
Formal.
People say
say
something, X something. I was like,
because
enough.
it carry weight, you see.
Enough.
You have to. I mean,
I know.
Yeah. Because
No,
if
because
I
there's
say
all-
my ex something like which I'll tell you all later, I'm very sure none of you would know the school.
No. And the thing is, I actually do agree with that because I think a lot of people they cannot live beyond that, right?
It's really right. It's like,
it's not just secondary school.
It's like the hot girl and guy in JC or secondary school, right? That like had all the boyfriends or girlfriends, right? Then you see them now, them too already. Like that is the kind of feeling that I get sometimes.
Flame him.
Yeah, like life needs to be about anyway. I don't
No,
want to say anymore already.
You already said a lot already. Just go for it.
I wonder if the Rise Media employees know this side of their boss.
It's very
They
cool.
feel
They so
that
brought it out.
Go for it.
We peel off the layers for you.
We need a revolution here.
Yeah, but no, but I completely understand about how like if let's say you weren't part of like say like a a school with a strong culture that you feel like you might want, that's something that might be missing. I get it. Yeah.
Because I wish I got into
fair point.
Anderson.
Yeah.
So that I could
but
flaunt it, but I
Like
didn't.
another very strong school would be Hwa Chong. Like people are very proud to be Hwa Chong. I mean, always the Mid-Autumn Festival, I think, they will always go back and they would like celebrate Chinese culture.
I love how it's Mid-Autumn and Chinese culture. Is that what
Yeah, it's very it's culture. I wish my school has a culture. Maybe
so
we celebrate
chicho.
bamboo, you know what I mean? Like, but it's cool.
The honestly, and this is a huge generalization, right? And most of the kids I meet from Hwa Chong are really cool.
Why?
They don't go around saying that, we can have dinner, and then like the topic of which secondary school you went to doesn't come up until like much later on.
No,
So they
until
don't
other
want
people
it
bring it
lah.
up.
Yeah, until other people bring it up,
Whereas the ACS is different, is it? Where
It's a
you
bit
from? You're
different.
not ACS,
No,
judgy
no need to
eyes.
ask. It's already in the Thai.
Yeah, but anyway, this is obviously huge generalizations.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your chief financial coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Now back to the show. I love how we went on a circle jerk around schools because the idea here is the pure excitement that you see on set is exactly the genesis of the show, of the episode.
Yep.
Right? It's like, why do people even care about their secondary school? Right?
It does matter.
So
good or bad.
I think that's the thing, right? Maybe share with me something that during your secondary school days impacted you and you still continue to kind of move forward with it.
Yeah. I would start. I'll share one. So I'm pretty much a goody two-shoe boy because study very hard, right? Then I remembered my chemistry teacher gave us a pop quiz. So she came to class and said, okay, let's do pop quiz. Of course, everybody's not ready. SOA, I don't understand why. Then
That's why it's called pop quiz, man.
yeah, we have pop quiz. So the chemistry teacher said, someone raised hand and said, teacher, can we like delay it next week? We're not ready. And then the chemistry teacher said, okay, fine. If everyone agrees, then we will push it away. And obviously, me raise hand and say, no, you should not push it away because you told us to study and we did. And today is the pop quiz. We should do it.
I will hate you.
Yes, I know. So
I will rally the whole class to hate you.
Yeah, so Miss Daniel, she was like, okay, since Eric said that, we should have a pop quiz, let's do a pop quiz. Oh my freaking God.
Sabo you.
Yeah, so that's one. Then number two is I never let people copy my homework because I think that you should do your own homework. Because every morning when I come to school, everybody's just copying homework. It's not fair, right? But so that really made my life very difficult in secondary school because no one in my circle taught me how to leverage on my skills and talent.
You asked me the whole
yeah.
the
But
quiz.
hey, think about it. Where these social skills need to learn from somewhere, you see.
Yeah.
So and I had no one to learn from. No one teach me like, hey, dude, don't do that.
Well, it's good
Right?
that you learn because
learned the hard
you
way.
literally went through the school of hard knocks to become the popular.
Yeah, I
and then
had
now
to-
you say Mr. Popular,
Yeah, but
Mr.
I have to read the How to Win
Positive.
Friends and Influence People, you know.
I think everybody
and
read that book
But
lah.
that book only came in JC rather than secondary. So I would say that I think sometimes you need to experience all that to understand that, hey, dude, that's not how you should behave in a community. Yeah, and if I have not that, I would have just been very neutral about people's skills. But because I had so bad experience, it makes me want to like be popular
Overcome
in school.
and be better,
yeah.
right?
So that was one of my most memorable experiences.
I'll share two.
You will
one
definitely
good
not be
and
my
bad.
friend in secondary school.
Oh,
so
yeah, you
it's
copy
so
homework, is it?
annoying.
Is it you always copy homework?
I don't. I am the model answer. Yeah. Really?
Yeah,
Later I tell you. Later I
Okay,
tell you.
my turn. I'll
Okay.
share one good and one bad.
Sure.
I think one good, and this is a hint. So those of you who know, you know. Those who don't know, then too bad.
Okay.
One good thing I really took away from my secondary school was what my principal always hammered, which is servant leadership. So she said her definition of leaders is not you know, to us back then, you see leader means you dictate right? That's the type of leadership that we are familiar with as kids. Our first role model being our parents, right? But she really introduced this whole concept of servant leadership, working from the ground up. And I remember not just that, but also one very good quote that has always followed me through my life, which is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I've really applied that throughout my entire life after that. So that was very impactful. And it came from my principal, which I think really set the tone. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who was affected by that lah. So if you know. But the bad
Tag her.
don't review which school. Thank you very much.
In the comment
Not
section.
delete, but delete the school name comes up. Okay, but the bad one was, as a secondary school kid going through puberty, I had a lot of pimples. I still do, so sad. You see, today I spent half an hour
No,
doing
you
my
still
Can't
Ching
tell
Chun.
lah.
That's why you
because I
can tell
make up
Ching Chun
already,
toh.
ma.
Yeah,
But the fact that I have to spend half an hour making up tells you something. Okay, but that's beside the point. The key thing is I really had a lot, really, really bad acne. And I was
my
the
God.
first among my friends and my class to develop
get
it.
it.
Which is worse. So
Yes.
you kena targeted. And people would think that it's because I dirty, never wash face. Kids are like, okay, not that I blame them, but yeah, it's like that, right? So as the story goes, you already know where this is ending. I was bullied a lot as a kid. It was really bad, and I had a clique, and I was bullied a lot even in that clique, to the point where the leader, the instigator, I remember you. I had to
wow. You even called name,
because we are best friends now. That's the irony.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, but she would, she instigated the whole clique to outcast me, and I felt really, really affected. And of course, after we became adults, we talk about it. Then now we laugh
Did she
about
apologize?
it. I don't remember, but I don't need her apology because I felt that it taught me a lot. And I think it's even more meaningful that we are best friends now, despite her having been
So
my bully.
ironic,
Some
yeah.
people hate the bullies for life, but I didn't have that baggage. So yeah, that really affected me because as a kid growing up, your self-esteem really gets affected. And it's so bad that till this day, occasionally some of my readers or friends would tell me, hey, I feel like you got imposter syndrome. You feel you have imposter syndrome. Do you suffer from that? And I think it's a childhood trauma thing. So yeah, that was my gist. And if I don't know if it would have been worse if I went to a branded school. Because this was not the school culture or anything. It's just the thing of age, the people around.
Yeah.
I'm sure people with pimples in ACS or Raffles or Anderson or...
No,
think
ACS
people will
different.
still say,
It was still
ACS
kinda the same thing,
can
right?
pay very expensive cream to
ACS,
solve
the,
it.
ACS, they say, don't worry, my mom is surgeon, cosmetic
yeah,
surgeon,
yeah.
can fix it.
I see a
Oh.
Hiren later.
What was it?
Hiren.
什么来的？
Hiren 上面很多 medical, derma, all those
okay.
dentists, all there one. I didn't know until my friends, but I hung out as ACS people for a while. Okay, please.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yourself?
Oh, what
Okay, I just want to
impactful thing for
qualify
your
that
secondary
I went to the budget ACS. Okay, so I went to I went to ACS Barker and then after the ACJC. So ACS Barker is for the one that comes at one. Like, you know, like like we had like, you know, like the whole range. We had like, you know, like everything from express to normal tech, right? Where like the other one, ACSI, got no normal one. So like, you know, like just only express. Right. So just to qualify, that was the more budget version. But more fun one, I guess. I think my secondary school experiences were really largely shaped by number one, the fact that I've always stuck out because I've got 12 fingers. You know, I can't commit a crime ever because it's easy to kind of like find out who it is. Right? You know, like, I mean, not that it's something I do think about, but like, you know, it's something that doesn't kind of like, it doesn't escape you. So like, even from now, like people still refer to me as like, you know, like Mark 6 or Mark 12, you know, the guy with the 12 fingers.
Oh, that's so cool. That's such a cool name.
Yeah, no, it's
That
cool.
sounds like a Transformer name.
Yeah, no, Iron Man.
Cool.
Yeah.
And because like Mark is such a common name, you know. So like I guess a lot of my experiences in secondary school, like in part shaped by that. The other thing here that is interesting, since we're talking about, you know, like privilege and the thing about being like, you know, in a brand name school, right, is that personally, I don't come from like I don't come from poverty, okay. So like, you know, I'm definitely not.
I love how it's an extreme example.
Yeah, it's an extreme
either
example.
privilege or poverty, right?
So I would say that like I'm fairly kind of like, my family background is that we're fairly kind of middle class. Like, you know, like we're not super rich. Like I still definitely need to work, right? But then when you're like, say like, you know, come from a somewhat normal background and then you go into a school that where there are people in there that, you know, generally do not come from normal backgrounds, right? That is the first introduction to privilege that you get.
Yeah.
Because you they are your friends. And then when you know, birthday party, you know, like maybe we might go to say like, you know, like go and watch a movie or whatever, you know, then you go to some of their houses, right? It is like, you know, like 50,000 square foot kind of mansions, right?
Yes.
Or the gifts that you give them versus what other people give.
And no, but it's okay. Like the thing is that, you know, they're generally really nice people, you know, and like but at the same time, you know, it's different because you know that you don't really live.
Yeah.
It's true.
Right. And okay, and I can also kind of like talk about how that kind of impacts things going forward, because some of the really close friends that you kind of like make in primary school or secondary school, right? At that point in time, it doesn't matter what financial background you came from because you're from the same school. But as you grow older, right, it becomes the differences start to kind of like become more apparent, because, you know, clearly, like, you know, like there is a lifestyle or an aspect to the way that they can lead their lives, right, that you just simply don't have access to. Right, so like that is something that I've observed, like, you know, like I feel like thinking about.
No, it's true because I have similar experiences, because I come from the kampong, right, Tampines. Right, it's the kampong. Now the kampong very populated, too many people, but so I went to Maris, right, and then the cars that come in are one kind. Right, you know, it's like, you know what I'm saying, like, but probably ACS is even worse, right? Wow. And then when I go to their house, right, it's like, wow, people live like that. That's the first question I ask myself. People live like this, right? It's quite nuts. And then you go down to the basement, then got like river inside, and then like you got to cross over to the game rooms, all this kind of weird shit. You open the house, the wooden door is like 3 human door open, then got chandelier in the middle. It's like, I thought this only happens in the movies, but no.
Did that make you feel inferior?
No, it makes me feel very curious, like what are these guys doing, right? I didn't feel inferior until much later. I think that's the Mark's experience. Like when you were kids, right, you were not like, it doesn't matter. But it's like, wow, you know, people live like that. But as you go down the path, and then like you meet more and more people, and then you realize that there are inherent differences in the way that you can live, just by the very fact of like, you know, where you're born and all that. It becomes more and more jarring, and then you'll be like, oh, this game is not fair at all, right? You know,
so I think that, like, you know, one thing that doesn't really get talked about much, right, is that people look at, say, a lot of these brand name schools as, okay, a lot of like rich people send their kids there. It's true, but at the same time, also there are people in there who do not come from that circle, right? So
that's why we are recording, bro.
But actually, I think that like the greatest beneficiary to all of that, right, was someone like me, because, like, you know, I never came from that world, from that, you know, super elite rich world, but then I got to kind of like also have an understanding of what these people are about. Right, so like there definitely was some kind of, you know.
Did that spur you on, like make you want to succeed, do well, so you can be like them?
I am driven by other things, but like the thing is that, like, you know, like it wasn't. I guess envy or jealousy. Maybe when I was really young, but as you grow older, it's not really
There's
about
a
that.
phase one. There's a phase. There was a period of time
Yeah.
that I idolized these guys. I was like, yeah, I must work like that. After a while, I realized it's not like that one.
Yeah.
The game is different. It's not pure hard work. Okay, and pure hard work gets you up to a certain, somewhere in the middle. Okay, this is the reality. You can mark me on my words. Okay, pure hard work and your talent, your abilities get you somewhere in the middle, right, or middle high. Right, you're quite good. People know you for it. They will give you opportunities. You do all that, right? But if you really want to break into that echelon of society, right, you need an opportunity. And opportunity comes in mass. Opportunity comes in, like turmoil, or it comes in like really big risk taking,
Family connection.
So it's not a linear progress.
So meritocracy is a myth.
Up to a certain point,
I feel that our government has kind of equalize or give at least like people like you and we are from neighborhood school.
The
the
thing
fact
is
that we have opportunities, I think there is
Not
meritocracy.
equal. When you have tuition, not equal.
fair point, but I think in schools, although I always joke about all schools are good schools, right? Some schools are better. That's the reality. But the baseline is indeed quite good.
Yes.
Okay, so all schools are good schools. I don't deny that. I add a
You
second.
just said something else just now.
Yeah, I add a second line lah. Some schools are just better, okay? And and they are better not just because there's more funding, there's a culture, there's a network that comes along, and many of all these other things that come along with it, right? So that is a reality that I think needs to exist, but it's meritocracy. That's a different discussion altogether.
I feel like maybe one of the biggest benefits that people don't really acknowledge as much also is that your secondary school can impact your later life because of the connections you make.
Yes, that was where I was trying to go. Please go for it.
So like the friends that you make then if you're put in a position where everyone is just generally richer or better and have more privileges,
more access.
then you kind of get access to that as well, simply by extension of being their friend, right?
Yes.
And if unlike me, where I was with like neighborhood school, we don't have people from like super rich families on. I don't have anyone who's like a chaebol, or Harriers or some crazy rich Asian, no such thing. We're really just almost all of us are from like HDB and stuff, right? The most would be condo and all. But if you're from like, I guess, ACS or a more branded one, knowing these people later on, then they're like, I can get you a job at my dad's company, or like my auntie owns this and blah blah blah, right? Have or not?
So on that part, actually, this is the part where I feel that people get it wrong. Really? In the sense that like definitely you have access to people like that are connected, and then like, but the benefits, right, is mainly lifestyle. That means like let's just say you can right now. I mean the example is that you can go to a club like Marquee, and then you have a friend there that got a freaking spend $20,000 a table, right? You can party with them right? But then when it actually comes to hard stuff, right, like
jobs,
building a family, your career, your jobs, etc., right? I think that the kind of advantage you have there in terms of connections, right, is not as great as people
really
think.
Why not?
So no new opportunities from work just because of.
And personally for me, I can only speak from my experience, but maybe because I didn't take the corporate path. Like honestly, a lot of the people that I have to deal with right at the moment, I mean, like we do see some people from ACS and from the other kind of brand name schools, but like it's definitely not. It hasn't been I mean, you can put it very bluntly, like no one's given me a mark. He was like, like you signed this contract because like you came from that school, right?
No, I think usually it won't be a because but it's
it's like I introduced you my dad, but you still need to send your resume. But at least your resume gets to be seen by the people of power.
Correct.
That introduction part, honestly, I think that the advantage that people make it out to be right isn't as great as it is, because there is still a lot of at least from my experience a lot of the stuff that I've had to do, I guess required actual hard work and actual kind of really you need to kind of hustle still.
I guess maybe could it be that because that's due to you not having pursued a corporate path, but let's say for your peers,
maybe. I mean, I wouldn't deny that there are situations where maybe the boss went to the same school that you went to. But I guess you could kind of apply that to a lot of the other kind of brand name schools in this situation.
Because it helped me, in the sense that, so I went to, this one I can say because I'm very proud of it. Okay? Tsinghua 大学. You know?
Oh, you went Tsinghua?
Tsinghua.
Nice.
Exchange only lah. I picked that because,
That
you
is
know, all
great.
my life, I never had a brand name school in my resume. And I really wanted something, but my
Glad that
grades
you
just
believe it's a brand name
couldn't.
school. I love it.
It is,
Because
it is,
just
what?
went into the top 10.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
And I
Tsinghua.
knew that when I was in my 18, 19, yeah. Okay,
Right.
anyway, so the point is, I just never got the luck or opportunity to go to a brand name school, and I really wanted that. It was something I aspired to, but you know, hard work only gets you there. My grade is not good enough, right? So when I saw an opportunity in my university for Tsinghua, I just grabbed it. And by the way, the opportunity was not Singapore. It was, I went overseas to the US on an exchange. That school had an opportunity. I was an exchange student on an exchange.
Oh wow.
Nice.
I had to apply for extra leave from my Singapore uni just to make that happen.
Nice.
But yeah, and I did it. And up till today, I do have my corporate life, right? It does help me. It opens up doors. Like my one of my previous jobs, the CEO was from Tsinghua. And I mentioned it, so it was like a talking thing, you know, you instantly connect because you have something in common.
ground, yeah.
And then like now I'm working, nowadays, you know, the Chinese people, they are more and more, they do a lot more work with us because of globalization, right?
Yeah.
So I do have clients who are based in China. And then when I tell them that I used to be from Tsinghua, they'll be like, wow, you know,
Yeah.
Tsinghua and
reaction
Peita is like the
different.
biggest in
No,
China.
so that's actually a
yes,
very
yes.
good point. The thing about it is that like nobody outside of Singapore gives a shit about like kind of like, you know, the schools we went to here. The thing about it is that, you know, Tsinghua, it's a school with like, you know, international renown. So I think that we should stop really making kind of like ACS, RI, RGS, MGS, you know, the equivalent of like a Harvard or an Oxford, or, you know, it's not. You know, like if let's say I went to like, say like, you know, like one of these big universities, right? Damn, I'll wear the crest out every other day. Like, you know, I'll be wearing like the Wharton cap and everything, you know, that's fine. Because the alumni actually, you know, like it's a solid international alumni. Right, in this case, right, like, you know, like you when you talk to people, say from like, you know, like from China or like, you know, like who have experience working there, right, and that is, you know, it actually means something, right? But you know,
yeah, but it doesn't mean anything outside of Singapore that you're from ACS.
Exactly,
Right? It
yeah.
only means that
Exactly.
case in Singapore.
No.
itself.
Exactly.
And you
Yeah.
can push it one step further
Yeah.
to think about this,
Yeah.
right? Like on some level, you can argue that the uni is like maybe the second last point or like the last point in your career, right? In
Education.
that sense,
Yeah.
right? And then you enter into the space. So that is quite important, you know, where you come from and like how much rigor you get out of those things, right? I think that is important. But the very fact that Singaporeans care about which secondary school you go to shows that the playing field ends at the secondary school.
Or more of like,
You know,
also
like
it
that-
shows how obsessed we are with all these brands and rankings from
No, I don't.
such a young age.
Yeah, so I don't deny that, but I don't think that's the only thing, right? Because I every time I hear people say education is a great leveler, blah blah blah, I'm like, oh my god, you totally don't understand how this system works, yeah, huh? The secondary school that you go to will affect, of course, where are your next few steps, and will affect where the scholarships are being dished out, and then directly affects your job
Yeah.
opportunity and the people around you, right? So
Fair,
because
fair.
of the structure that has been built in Singapore, right, people are obsessed with that. It's like
Not just Singapore also lah. I mean, to be very honest, if you look overseas, like I like how you raised that point of ACS is just recognized in Singapore, right? But if you go outside, nobody really cares, or some might not even know of it. But it's the same thing overseas, right? There are some brand schools that are of branded high schools in the US where you are from there and people just look at you differently
True.
as well.
True.
So it's not because of Singapore system or our structure thing. Like, I think it's a global phenomenon of any country where education is fairly important.
okay,
Or maybe any developed country,
yeah.
right?
It's-
Korea, US, or Singapore, Hong Kong, all these matter.
maybe because I'm not from there, so my friends.
I
don't-
mean, if you watch Gossip Girl, you know already,
so my
mah,
friends,
right?
my
The
friends don't
school
kind of talk to
is
me
the
about like, oh,
brand.
which school I come from, blah 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 blah. Okay, fair.
Yeah.
So then, what is maybe give me in the last question, right? Give me an example of like how your secondary school has kind of like benefited you or in some ways like impeded your progress in adult life.
Okay, I'll go first because I'm the neighborhood school, right? And I'll take the impeded one. I feel if I had gone to like Raffles or Anderson, like what I was aspiring. Okay, I'm not Anderson. I aspired there because that was the max I could hit. But in reality, I would have loved to be a Raffles girl. I feel like that would have open up a lot more opportunities for me, because then when I make friends, right, and the friends that I make now when we're adults, like you can go back and you have that connection. And I can talk to more people with that as a, as a connecting point. Now, I very seldom meet people who are from my secondary school, so very little to connect over there. So in this case, like I would have been able to get more access to opportunities. Of course, I would still have to work for it, but at least getting your resume seen or getting access to that would have mattered. And I really think my life would have looked a lot different if I had gone to Raffles. Yeah. Say for example, not that it ever happened, but like when I started my blog, for instance, right? Maybe I go to Raffles and then I happen to know someone whose mom is like a chief of SPH or something right? Or the founder of Rise Media and then I say, hey, can you feature my blog in your SPH or Rise Media article? Then boom, go viral instantly because I have the access. But I didn't. So I had to build and work on it myself. So I would say in that sense, secondary school not that it impeded, but it didn't give me that privilege or benefits that I would hope to have had. Yeah.
Cool. Mark?
Question was whether secondary school benefited,
impeded you.
Either way, you can take a position.
No, I think that like I had a good secondary school education, all things considered. My complaint about ACS earlier on was that the fact that it just seems really lame at the moment, right? But then like when I kind of peel back all the layers, I think for sure, like the point about I think that like the conversation for me actually is not really about ACS. I think it just benefits someone generally to go to a secondary school with a very strong culture. So that's also how like years down the road you can still connect with someone from that school because they were part of that culture. ACS has a strong culture. Whether it is it's a culture people like or not, it's for another discussion.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's quite cool.
Yeah. So I think on that part, the fact that like, I'm still very close to quite a lot of my ACS friends today, is probably the biggest benefit for me. Could I have gotten that same kind of education from other schools? I think so. I think that like if you would ask me, that's where the real distinction between your so-called brand name schools versus the non-brand name schools really lies. It's in the culture, right?
And the people you meet.
So I think overall, I think that like definitely benefited in terms of the friends that I made.
I also do think it's up to the individual. If you have that privilege, it's up to the individual to grab those opportunities and leverage them. But if you're like me where I didn't have, then you just find other ways of building it.
Yeah, but I think in the as to how much it has really benefited me, right? Is I would say like if you want to, it is probably like a minor point in my current kind of like life at the moment, but definitely has benefited me, It's just not like to the point where I will put a lot of weightage on it,
Yeah.
We
should run an experiment. Now we tell everyone that Rise Media was founded by an ACS boy. See whether that drives up traffic.
Oh.
Probably will actually, kind of like
see, that's the benefit already.
Yeah, it's a lightning rod at the moment, I think the bigger question here is it's more to do with the whole move to Tengah, right? It is the co-ed aspect a bigger discussion than the actual kind of location, in my opinion.
I feel people also think it's a dilution of the brand. So I would feel the culture would still be more or less the same, right? Because it's still ACS culture. But like the perception is that the brand has been diluted because you move from an atas area to a Tengah area.
I mean, the area for me, like I think that personally, I'm all for the move because moving the school to, I would say, like areas outside of the usual kind of like elite districts, right? Like actually gives access to that level, more access to the education, But where I think that there is some discussion here is that you have, at least for me, I don't know whether you guys went to a co-ed or like a single sex.
Co-ed.
A co-ed.
Single sex, right?
Boys' school, yeah.
Yeah. Culture is very different.
It is.
Very different.
It is.
And so I think that I'm not making a value judgment here, but when you take a single sex school and turn it co-ed, right, culture is going to change.
Of course.
It does. I mean, when in JC, it's a different vibe altogether. So yeah.
I think that is just the way that we have to roll forward because at the end of the day, education is about being inclusive, reaching as many people as possible. That includes women, right? That includes kind of like moving the school in areas where the outside of the expensive districts. So I mean, I'm all for it. It's just that get prepared for the culture to change. Yeah.
It's a good thing, I think.
Andersonian, what's your take?
Don't sing song anymore.
Yeah, I hands down think that my secondary school has influenced me in a great way.
Is it the secondary school or the principal?
Because of the people in there. yeah, I don't think it was the Anderson that made any difference. It was the principal, the teachers, and even my classmates, good and bad. So I felt that because I was in a school like this, I was given a lot of opportunities to travel. I was given a chance to even take part in public speaking competitions and screw up so badly. But I was also good because I realized my strengths. I was given leadership positions as well. So I think opportunities are so important in your formative years. And sometimes if you put your children to a branded school, then your kid's going to be competing with a lot more smarter, more capable, more students with access to resource. And it can create a lot of stress for a kid, especially if the kid is not trained to manage his ego. Like my dad was a taxi driver and I was totally okay with my dad sending me to school. But imagine now if I'm in a top school, everybody drives like what you said. Oh God, in 13 years old, I would be so inferior. And then I do not know if I have the capacity to deal with it. I might have crashed it and hate myself and my family, So I think not all of us are ready. So some schools just kind of slowly prep us, and I just think that I was in a good school. I was put in the right place, right time. Yeah.
Are you still in touch with your secondary school friends?
Ironically, yes. This morning they are asking for an outing, but I felt like I have nothing in common with them. I've tried going out with them before, and the conversations that they made is very nice for them, but it just can't click.
I think you need to cut this out. Later his friends stop talking to him. Really.
No, I mean, it's fine. I did share on social, but I think it's because we're at a different life stage. Because most of my friends are corporate. Yeah. I am entrepreneur, and I'm single. Even at 40, they are already married with kids. The conversations that they talk about are so different.
When people have kids and people don't have kids, right? It's
very, very different.
It becomes harder.
Yeah, but they're very nice people. They make me feel included. But it's just we're a different life stage. Yeah. How about you?
Closing, huh?
Ooh, closing statement.
Wow, closing. So I think my secondary school definitely affected a lot of my life, right? For all the good and the bad reasons, right? Because I think when my English was horrible, because I came from a Chinese school. Yeah, I came from Chinese school. My English was horrible. I went there and everybody spoke English. It's a very weird situation, and I felt inferior for not speaking English. So I, on some level, I was forced to do that, right? But if you ask me whether or not, because of the school alone, it became something, no. Yeah. So, let us know. What do you think? How is it like for you, for your secondary school, and then. Like I think I quite want to echo what Mark said, please stop living like that's your peak. Okay? move forward, live a better life, and let's take it from there.
Flame.
Yeah. Let us know which secondary school you come from too. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Lovely. Awesome. Yeah, tag all of them. Please.